The oak is 300 years old and something is climbing it in the dark. Claws find bark. A slim brown body moves upward, unhurried, sure of every foothold, as if it has made this exact climb before. Because it has. 20 feet up, tucked into a hollow worn smooth by decades of wind and woodpeckers, two owl chicks lie pressed together, blind still, wrapped in pale gray down. Their mother is out hunting, their father is out hunting, and the climber knows it. If the secret life of owls fascinates you, stick around and hit that subscribe button. There's a lot more hiding in the dark. This is a Tawny Owl's world, and right now, everything in it comes down to one question. Will these two chicks make it to their first flight, or will tonight be where the story ends? Rewind 6 weeks. A female tawny owl, Strix Aluco, chose this cavity carefully. Tawny owls don't build nests the way songbirds do. They inherit them. A hollow trunk, an old crow's platform, sometimes a nest box if the forest doesn't offer better. This particular hollow has sheltered owl families for years. It's deep, it's dry, and it's high enough to discourage most things that walk on four legs. Most things, not all. She laid 2 eggs days apart and settled in to incubate them almost completely alone for 30 days straight, barely leaving the cavity except for brief stretches at dusk. While she sat, her mate did the hunting for both of them, dropping voles and mice at the entrance night after night, so she'd never have to choose between warmth and hunger. That division of labor is the whole engine of tawny owl parenting. She keeps the eggs at a steady temperature, he keeps her fed. Neither job works without the other. Tawny owls like her are built for woodland life in particular. Native across most of Europe and stretching well into Western Asia, they favor mature forest, parks, and even leafy gardens, wherever old trees offer cavities and enough cover for daytime rest. A female typically weighs somewhere between 400 and 600 grams, noticeably heavier than her mate, with a wingspan approaching a meter. Enough lift to carry prey, not enough bulk to slow her down between branches. Round-headed without the ear tufts some owls carry, she comes in one of 2 color forms, a warm reddish-brown or a cooler gray, both of which do the same job once she presses herself flat against bark. Disappear. That disappearing act matters as much by day as it does by night. Come sunrise, she doesn't return to the open cavity with her chicks for long. Instead, she often finds a separate roost nearby, tucked against a trunk where her plumage blends into the bark pattern almost perfectly. Even so, small woodland birds frequently locate a roosting owl and swarm it, calling loudly and diving close without making contact, a behavior known as mobbing. It looks chaotic, but it serves the songbirds well, broadcasting the predator's location to the entire neighborhood so no one is caught off guard later. The owl usually just endures it, waiting for the fuss to pass. And then, one at a time, back at the hollow, the shells cracked. Because the eggs were laid days apart, the chicks hatched days apart too. The older one already a little stronger, a little louder, by the time its sibling opens its eyes for the first time. For roughly 2 weeks after hatching, the mother barely leaves them, brooding them under her body to keep them warm, since newly hatched owlets can't yet regulate their own temperature. The father keeps delivering food. She tears it into pieces small enough for a chick that can't yet swallow a whole vole. It's a fragile setup. 2 flightless, defenseless chicks in a hollow that anyone who knows where to look can find. And somewhere in this same patch of woodland, something does know where to look. Pine Martens are built for exactly this kind of hunt. A Pine Marten is a slim, agile mustelid, barely the size of a large house cat, but its claws and joints are made for climbing, and its territory can stretch across several square kilometers of forest. Unlike a fox working the ground below, a marten doesn't need the owls to come down. It goes up. And research on tree cavity nesting owls has shown something unsettling about how martens hunt. They remember. A marten that has raided a productive hollow once tends to return to it in later seasons, checking the same trunks again and again, the way you might check a cupboard you know has been stocked before. This old, well-used cavity, the very thing that made it such a good nest, is also what makes it a marked location on some marten's mental map of the forest. If you're enjoying this journey into the owl's world, a quick like helps more people discover it. Tonight, the marten is close. It scales the trunk in short, controlled bursts, pausing to test the air, moving toward the hollow the way it has moved toward hollows before. Inside, the chicks are alone. Their mother left an hour ago, slipping out on wings built for silence. Soft comb-like edges on her flight feathers break up the turbulence that would normally make a rush of air audible, letting her drop onto a vole in total quiet. Her hearing does the rest. One ear sits slightly higher than the other on her skull, a small asymmetry that lets her triangulate the faintest rustle in the leaf litter with startling precision. She is, by every measure, an extraordinary night hunter, but an extraordinary hunter can also be caught too far from home. She hears it before she sees it, not the marten itself, but the disturbance it causes. A shift in the normal sounds of the tree. She turns mid-flight and comes back fast, low over the canopy, and what happens next is something tawny owls are genuinely known for, defending a nest with a level of aggression that seems out of proportion to their size. There are documented cases of tawny owls striking at intruders who venture too close to an active nest, targeting the head with fast, low, silent passes. This is not blind panic. It's a calculated defense, aimed at the one part of a predator's body that determines whether it keeps climbing or turns back. The marten hesitates at the mouth of the hollow. A dive comes out of the dark, talons first, and the marten flinches back along the branch it came up on. Another pass follows and another, each one forcing the marten to choose between finishing the climb and protecting its own eyes. In cavity nests like this one, that choice usually goes to the parent. Ground and tree predators can often be driven off entirely when the adult owls commit fully to defense. And tonight, this mother commits fully. The marten retreats down the trunk, claws skidding slightly on the bark, and melts back into the undergrowth to try somewhere else some other night. Inside the hollow, the chicks haven't moved. They don't know how close it came. They only know that food arrives and warmth returns, and the world for now is safe again. None of this happens in a vacuum. A tawny owl pair's entire breeding attempt rides on how much food is moving through the woodland that season. Voles and mice make up the bulk of their diet, though they'll switch to birds, frogs, even earthworms and insects when rodents are scarce, particularly if snow blankets the ground and hides the usual runways beneath the leaf litter. Studies tracking tawny owl pairs over multiple seasons have found that clutch size and the number of chicks raised both drop in years when prey is hard to find and rise when it's abundant. This year, the voles were plentiful. That's part of why there were 2 eggs instead of 1, and part of why the father could keep the food arriving fast enough for the mother to never have to leave the hollow undefended for long. Good prey years don't remove the danger. They just buy a family more chances to survive it. The weeks that follow are less dramatic, but they matter just as much. By around 3 weeks old, the chicks are covered in a thicker coat of down and starting to test their legs, shuffling toward the cavity entrance to look out at a world they haven't touched yet. This is when a strange in-between stage begins. Branching. Long before they can truly fly, young tawny owls often leave the nest hollow and clamber out onto nearby branches, using their beak and talons, almost like a fourth limb, gripping bark and hauling themselves upward. It looks clumsy. It is clumsy, but it spreads them out, and a predator that finds one branch doesn't necessarily find all of them. It's also, undeniably, a dangerous window. Branching chicks sometimes lose their grip and end up on the ground, where they can't yet fly back up and have to rely on the same climbing instinct to work their way back into the canopy. Their parents keep feeding them wherever they land, cavity or branch or forest floor, and keep up the same aggressive defense against anything that gets too close. It's one continuous stretch of vulnerability, from the day the shell cracks to the day true flight finally arrives, somewhere around 5 weeks of age. And even flight isn't independence. For roughly the next 3 months, these owlets stay inside their parents' territory, still being fed, still learning. How to read the shape of a vole's rustle in the grass, how to judge the distance of a branch in the dark, how to hunt for themselves instead of simply waiting for a delivery. Only by late summer or early autumn do they finally disperse to find territory of their own, and only then does this particular story reach its real ending. What played out in that hollow tree is not an isolated incident. It's the ordinary shape of a tawny owl's breeding season, repeated across countless territories every single year. A female that incubates almost without pause, a male that hunts without complaint, a mother that turns into something fierce the instant a climber gets too close. And chicks that survive less because of luck and more because every part of this system, the silent wings, the asymmetrical ears, the aggressive nest defense, the awkward safety of branching, evolved specifically to answer threats exactly like the one that climbed this tree tonight. A species doesn't get 22 years of potential lifespan and a range stretching across an entire continent by leaving survival to chance. It gets there by building, generation after generation, a set of answers precise enough to meet a pine marten in the dark and win. Which part of the story surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments and follow along because the night always has another secret waiting.